Time to review Snowpiercer Season 4, Episodes 8, 9, and 10. So I guess Snowpiercer is going out with a whimper, and I was very disappointed. I do still think it's worthwhile, possibly, to watch Episode 1 of the season, and then just know that at the end of Season 4, everybody on Snowpiercer gets to live in the nice outdoor colony, because I still love the thought and the time in New Eden. And I enjoy getting to see some of the classism break down and everyone sort of like pitching in more communally. And to be fair to Season 4, I did have like a lot of expectations because this is the last season of Snowpiercer. And then on top of that, historically, Snowpiercer has these amazing last two episodes where sometimes things were dragging or confusing or like just not pulling together for me. And the last two episodes just do so much so fast in such an engaging and fun way. I was like,
you know what, it's okay. We still have 2 episodes and Season 4 is gonna pull it out somehow.
But honestly, these last 2 episodes don't do much of anything. The action is kind of abbreviated and it's very like middle of the road on stuff that we've seen Snowpiercer excel at in the past. Throughout the whole season, there were nods to potential plot elements, to potential areas where there could be backstabs. There was this idea in my mind that maybe other people were watching the camp the whole time based off of how some of the camera frames were set up or based off of some of the sound cues during some of the dialogues. None of that pays off. It really had me wondering if they had changed their mind mid-production on how the season was going to roll out, or if like the dialogue, the timing, the sound cues, and even like the camera angles were just bad and done ineptly this season. Since this is the last review I'll ever do of Snowpiercer, I'm probably going to pick and choose a little bit with what I have to say. But we're going to go ahead and start about the characters and discuss the limited ones I think are worth talking about at this juncture. Javi gets a sweet romantic ending between him and Rose Sykes, and I feel like he's really earned it, so go him. With Josie, I didn't like where they went with her character this season. I could see a little bit of that hinted setup of her being an experiment, that giving her flashbacks to her Season 2 trials, but they just didn't build it in a very good way, and they took someone who had been super consistent in the heart of the show for a very long time and made her incredibly self-centered and like abandoning of the plan at the end in a way I just don't feel like Josie would ever do, even if she was like quote-unquote triggered. And I especially didn't see coming based off of how they escaped off the silo. Just like a very truncated, abbreviated attempt at a story arc that goes nowhere and does nothing. Nima is a terrible villain. He's confusing, he doesn't really know what he wants. His whole character beat is super confused and not really knowing him or what he wants or how he responds. Like, yes, an unpredictable villain can be scary, but not so much when they're so like, I don't know, weak and just sort of like puttering like Nima seems to be. I know he has an army backing him up, but it did leave me questioning like, why does he have that whole army? Why are they sticking with him? Like a whole bunch of it didn't gel for me in that specific regard. I hated that we worked in like further connections between him and Melanie that kind of imply Melanie should have known about this chemical situation beforehand. And I hate that we thought that Alex's dad needed to be a thing revealed here in Season 4. Like, what a flippin' time waster that was. And then let's talk about the base people. It probably goes without saying, but I was really expecting more from that base subplot where Leighton goes down, finds all those people trapped. And then on top of that, once he leaves that area, Wilford kills off the Admiral, which makes me think the lady who's down there, who is the original Admiral, could easily come back up and take over. And then those base people could have come in with an assist, or they could have stopped things. Minimally, there could have been more communication between the groups, because as Melanie says in the voiceover this season, we might not like who's here at the end of the freeze, but this is all of humanity that's left, and we have to work with what we've got. And you know, like, this base could have been aware of other survivors. There were a bunch of resources they could have shared. Like, there was a lot of potential in this storyline to expand it and make it feel bigger and just like a larger thing. And instead, we really like narrowed the scope in, which I understand because this is the last season. They wanted to focus on the core characters, but since we really didn't even do that, why not make this feel like an epic standoff? Like, we're really reconnecting with the world and we're coming back to like a new normal for humanity. Most of the other characters we managed to like snub or let down in some kind of way here. It is what it is, but for me, one of the things Snowpiercer has always done well is having a large ensemble cast that they gave all the characters pretty good time and arcs to. Seeing Audrey like being in 2 episodes but having no purpose or place, Till being here and having nothing to do, Ruth is here with nothing to do, even Leighton to a certain certain degree. Like, yes, he's leading the armies, but outside of that, it felt like he was kind of lost too. Like, none of these characters have drive or arcs or their own setup. Roach had so much potential to have like his own episode after he's captured, and we get none of that. Oz is set up in the intro to have his redemptive arc finally, and he just returns to his old self that he was in season 1, which is super disappointing when you remember that part of who Oz was in the first season is a serial abuser. The fact that we don't address this, handle it, or make some kind of critical change in who he is, not so cool. I really hope all the actors got paid for all the parts they did, because this season wasted their time. I don't think it was a good showcase of their talent or ability. Moving into specific scenes, in episode 8, I really like when Till, Roach, and Oz all get to reunite and they have a moment like the three of them all together, just like we first saw them in season 1. There's some other cute Till and Oz scenes going on in 9 and 10, but I actually was kind of annoyed by them because I think those scenes took away from time we could have been spending with Till and Audrey, or like Oz actually having an arc and change of heart. There were just so many other characters that needed that space, and the Till and Oz relationship was not actually a good one. And that's something we find out like as early as episode 4 in season 1. Also, the episode where Till and Oz fight over who gets to take out the sniper, Oz wins, and then he goes over his plan with Till, turns around and she's not there. The sound cue on that was similar to the same one where he lost track of Roach, and had me wondering if he was like hallucinating the whole thing or hallucinating part of this, and we were about to get like a crazy twist reveal that would be very un-Snowpiercer-esque, but it was just bad sound cue camera work to make the two scenes too reminiscent, because it's actually Till just taking advantage of Oz's like being absorbed in something to take what she didn't win fairly. To its credit, the camera work in episodes 9 and 10 is significantly better than the shaky camera work we were getting earlier in the season. I didn't get any motion sickness during any of the final battles, and that was a small miracle considering how queasy a lot of the other shots earlier in the season made me. I didn't like the song we chose to close on with Aubrey singing at the end of episode 10, but I did really like that Audrey starts singing like on her own as a solo, the way we set her off in season 1, and then Oz joins in and accompanies and supports and buoys her performance, which is a great little callback to how the two of them were kind of like feuding over who was more talented and had more use to Wilfred in season 2. Now they just get to be two very talented people supporting and appreciating each other here in New Eden. I like when Melanie asked Leighton if New Eden is going to be able to support all the new passengers from Snowpiercer, and Leighton says, "We'll make it work," and Melanie sort of says, "As we always should have," and then Leighton says, "We got there eventually." Like, it's a nice little callback that this started between Leighton and Melanie, and it started between them arguing over how resources should be pooled in Snowpiercer and how you should treat people, and here we are finally doing the right thing by everyone and getting a chance to have like that collective assembly with no reprisals that Leighton wanted us to have ever since the end of season 1. The close-up on the flowering plant is so cartoonish and fake and out of place with the visuals of everything else in the season. It was awful. I don't even care if this was supposed to be a callback to the opening starting sort of cartoony as like a tribute to the graphic novels. It doesn't work here at the end because it's so random. Which moves me into the themes. Y'all, I just can't sit here and pretend that this season had any theming going for it. This is not coherent or transformative or good from that perspective in any way, shape, or form. The closest we come might be like the environmental message, but even that is very muddy and confusing and sort of like overwrought and often doesn't make sense. You know, I'm not very good at science, and I'm definitely not good at mechanics and stuff like that, but most of the time when Snowpiercer had a mechanical issue or was approaching something scientifically in previous seasons, I could follow what's going on and it made general level sense to me, or it was something at least I could accept for the premise of the story. This season I was pushing back against the science and the theories and the plans and the explanations all the time, and that didn't feel good to me. I was like, okay, if I have an issue with this, then probably everyone does. Like, I'm not good at this and I have a problem. So someone who actually knows about this must think that this is just laughably absurd. I don't know. They should have spent more time with it and like hammering it out in the writer's room so that we had something worth watching. And that's going to be all of my thoughts on season 4 of Snowpiercer, especially lasered in on those last 3 episodes. It wasn't a great journey through all of the cars this time, but I guess it could have been worse. I'm sad we waited so long for this season and this is what it is, but I guess I'm glad that it's finished, and while it's not good, it's nowhere near as bad as it could have been if they kept dragging it out. Thanks for coming with me on this journey through Snowpiercer, and as always, keep reading.